Hello again, everyone. Now this week in craft, we're going to be noisy. Listen to this. That makes quite a good shaker, doesn't it? We're making shakers to play with the songs today, just out of paper. There's something inside it. This has got rice inside, but you can experiment with putting other things inside and seeing what sounds they make. Now, I've made my shaker out of a piece of magazine. Same magazine I used before. So here we are. Okay. I have a piece of magazine all about flowers. I made a shaker out of a piece like that. But you might not have a magazine at home. If you do ask the person it belongs to if you could have a piece of paper for making your shaker. Don't just take it with you. It might spoil their magazine. But we're going to make one now out of just an ordinary piece of paper. This is just a piece of paper for writing letters on. Just in case that's more like the kind of thing that you've got at home. And we'll see how it goes. You ready? If you're making your shaker out of plain paper, you probably want to decorate it first. Okay. So here I'm going to do some circles on the back of my paper, but you can do whatever you like. You could draw a picture. Circles are just nice and quick and easy. That's not very interesting, is it? If you do it, you could make it much more interesting than that. Now we're going to make a little paper bag, because that is what my shaker is made out of. To make the paper bag, make sure your picture side is on the bottom to start with, and then we're going to fold the paper in half. So put the edge up to meet it, squash it down with your finger. There. Now all we need to do to make that into a paper bag is turn this edge and that long edge. We're going to leave the other one open. So let's just fold a narrow fold over at the bottom. Now that would sort of make an edge, but we want to be very careful that the things inside our shaker don't fly out when we rattle it. So we're going to turn it over one more time. There. Okay, and you want a piece of sellotape that is at least as long as the side. It doesn't matter if you have to cut some sellotape off afterwards. So let's stick that down nice and strongly, or I can just bend the edges round. There we go. All right. I don't think anything's going to get out of that end, do you? Now find the open side down here. And we're going to do the same thing. Fold it in once. Not a very big fold, okay? Just a narrow one. And just fold that over again. There. And we need another long piece of sellotape to go down that side. Now this time I don't want, where my opening is, okay, I don't want sellotape going over there. So I'll start my piece of sellotape at the edge. Stick it right down. But at the other end, oh dear, look, what am I doing? I need a new piece of sellotape because I can't leave a hole. Otherwise, when I shake my shaker, things are going to fall out. Let me get another piece of sellotape. Because we need to do it properly. There we are. Right. There's my bag. Look. So there you are. You've got a nice little paper bag. There's an opening. You could just use it as a bag to put something in, perhaps a present for someone. But we're making shakers, so we need something inside it because, listen, oh, it doesn't make any noise, not like this one. That's because this one has rice inside it. So I'm going to put a little bit of rice in here and we'll see whether it sounds like a shaker. Let's put a bit of my rice out of my rice jar. Not too much. If I put too much in, it won't shake around very well. There we are. Now, before we make the handle, let's just turn that over and try shaking it. It's not bad, is it? Not bad. Not quite as good as this one. That's, I think, because this one's a bit bigger, and also it's a bit, the paper is a bit stiffer because it's from a magazine, a catalogue, right? So this is a bit quieter, but that's all right. You can still shake it when you sing, can't you? So I'm just going to open it up because I would like to try to see what noise it makes with something different in. tip my rice back out there. Okay. I couldn't find anything else in my kitchen, so I have got some little bits of stick from my garden. There they are. So I'm going to put them in there. We're going to have to listen carefully to this one, I think. Listen. That's interesting. Let's try the two different ones. Oh, nice. You'd have a whole band, couldn't you? Maybe, if there's more than one of you at home doing this, you could put different things in them, and then you could work out how to play your shakers at different times. A bit like a drummer with his different drums. I like this. Right, now I'm going to stick this end to make a sort of handle. I have a handle on this one to hold. So let's just fold in this end a bit like a sack, okay? We could tie it around with string. It's quicker to do it with sellotape if you've got sellotape. If I can get my piece of sellotape that I've cut back off the edge of the table. Whoa, yes. There we go. We need to do it so that the things inside won't fall out, don't we? So stick it round nice and tightly. And stick the sellotape up around there to make your handle more like a handle. There we are. Oh, doesn't shake very well, this one. I think maybe my paper was a bit small. So that's a good thing to remember. You might want a bigger piece of paper and make a bigger shaker. Oh, you can still hear that, can't you? So there you are. That is made with a small piece of paper. This was made with half a magazine page. All right, so that's what you need, but you could make a bigger one with any sort of paper that you've got. Probably not cardboard, I think that might not work, but you could experiment with other things to make shakers with. Perhaps if somebody has a small yogurt pot at home, you could put something that will rattle inside it, put a piece of paper over the top, down over the sides, and put an elastic band round, and that will make a shaker as well. Have fun making these, and when we get to the singing today, how about you shake one of these along? Maybe if you haven't made them in time for this week's singing, you could save them for next week. And don't forget to send us some photos of what you make. That would be really good. We've got some photos at the end of today's Kids Club showing craft that people have made from different weeks.
Okay, welcome back to singing. Today we're going to start with Wide, Wide to the Ocean.
Wide, wide as the ocean, high as the heavens above, deep, deep as the deepest sea is my Saviour's love. I, though so unworthy, still am a child of His care. For His word teaches me that His love reaches me everywhere.
Alright, now, while we're on this water theme, let's have Fishers of Men.
I will make you fishers of men, fishers of men, fishers of men. I will make you fishers of men if you follow me. If you follow me, if you follow me. I will make you fishers of men if you follow me.
Very nicely done. I think now we should have a standing up one. Let's do My God is So Big.
My God is so big, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing that He cannot do. That's true. My God is so big, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing that He cannot do. That's true. The mountains are His, the rivers are His, the stars are His handiwork too.
Right, now let's have a sitting down one, and let's do the wise man.
The wise man built his house upon the rock. The wise man built his house upon the rock. The wise man built his house upon the rock, and the rain came tumbling down. The rain came down and the floods came up. The rain came down and the floods came up. The rain came down and the floods came up, and the house on the rock stood firm. But the foolish man built his house upon the sand. The foolish man built his house upon the sand. The foolish man built his house upon the sand, and the rain came tumbling down. The rain came down and the floods came up. The rain came down and the floods came up. The rain came down and the floods came up, and the house on the sand fell flat. So build your life on the Lord Jesus Christ. So build your life on the Lord Jesus Christ. So build your life on the Lord Jesus Christ, and He'll never let you down.
Okay, now let's do one we've been learning here at Kids Club Online. It's called When the Road is Rough and Steep.
When the road is rough and steep, fix your eyes upon Jesus. He alone has power to keep. Fix your eyes upon Him. Jesus is a gracious friend, one on whom you can depend. He is faithful to the end. Fix your eyes upon Him. So, here we are. This is our 4th week learning about Gideon and what happened to him and what God did. Wonderful things that God did in the time of Gideon, in the time of the judges. We've done 1, 2, 3 lessons so far. So in the first one, that's when the angel of the Lord came and gave him the message. Mighty, brave warrior Gideon, you go and lead the army to drive out the enemies who are camping in Israel. Gideon was a very ordinary man, and I think he was a bit scared and very surprised, but we know, don't we, that God can take things that seem very unimportant, and God can use those things to do important jobs. He can take very ordinary people and give them special jobs to do, and because it's God doing it, He can make them wise enough, strong enough, and He can show them how to do something so that they can do something great. Okay, so God can use the weak things of the world to shame the strong. That was the verse that you learned. Then, what do we do the second week? Oh, I know. The second week was when he had to go and sort out the problems at home first, didn't he? He had to go and get rid of the idols that belonged to his father. And he did it, didn't he? He was a bit scared, but he went and did it at night, and he destroyed the idols, because you can't have other gods. You can worship God, but you can't worship God and other gods. That's not right. That's what they were doing in Israel at the time. They were saying, oh yes, we worship the Lord, but we also worship Baal, and we worship Asherah and Molech and Chemosh and lots of other made-up gods. So that was what happened the second week. He destroyed the idols. And then the third week, do you remember? He blew his trumpet. I won't make that noise again. It was a funny noise, wasn't it? And lots of men came to join his army, but just when it looked like he was going to go out and fight, he began to wonder, will God really do what he said? Now you put your hands up if you think God will really do whatever he says. I hope all those hands are up. Hands up. Okay? Because God always does what he says. God is faithful, and he always keeps his promises. So here we are. Now Gideon was sure that God would help him. And he had all these men who'd come to fight in his army. He had so many men. There were about 32,000 men. That's a very big number. And if you're still learning little numbers, you might not have any idea how many that is. Well, 32,000 is a good football crowd. If you see a football game happening on the television and there's lots and lots and lots of people watching, that's a pretty good football crowd, 32,000 people. So many people, it's hard to see them all, very, very hard to count them. It was like that. Or if you've been to the O2 Centre, I know some of you have gone with your school to the O2 Centre and done some singing there. And if the O2 Centre was all full of people when you sang, there were so many of them. But Gideon's army of men was as if you had filled up the O2 Centre and then there were half as many people still queuing outside who couldn't get in. Imagine that. Lots and lots and lots of people. You'd think, that's good. A big strong army. Now they can go and fight. But God said no. God said, you have too many soldiers. Now that seems a funny thing to say, doesn't it? But God said, you have too many soldiers. If you go out and you fight and you win the battle against the Midianites, then the people in Israel will say, we're big, we're strong, we're brave, we beat the enemies. And God said, but it's me who's going to drive the enemies out. And he wanted the people of Israel to know that God had rescued them. That was important. Okay? People go out and they do all sorts of brave things. But if then they say, well, that's because I'm very strong and I'm very brave, and they boast about it and they get proud, that's not good. Instead, when we're kept safe, we're rescued, we're helped, if we say, God has been very good to me. I had to go and do this thing, but God kept me safe, God made me brave, then that's really good, because we learn then to talk to God, to think about God, and to love God. And that's the most important thing there is. So, God said, you've got too many men. And God said this. All right, now I want you to imagine that you are in Gideon's great big army, 32,000 men. There you are. You've brought your sword with you, ready to go into battle. And God said, tell the men, if any of you are scared to go and fight, go home now. And do you know what happened? Gideon said, if any of you are scared, God says, go home now. And 22,000 men got up, took their swords, and went home. 22,000 of them, because they were scared. Whoa! Can you be one of those scared soldiers? Shake and look really frightened. Okay, and they went. They weren't going to be able to help, because God said no. We're not having them. So that left how many? People who are good at sums, they had 32,000. 22,000 went home. Give you time to think. Any of the older ones? 10,000. 10,000 men left. That's still quite good, isn't it? 10,000. Not enough to fill up a football stadium, not even a small one, but it's still a lot of people. But God said, your army is still too big. Your army is too big. Now, why did God say the army was too big? Because, do you remember, they would say, if they won the battle, that's because we're brave, that's because we're strong, that's because we're great. Instead of saying, God has rescued us from our enemies, let's praise him and love him and remember to obey him. So, God told Gideon to do something else. Now this time it wasn't as obvious as sending home the ones who were scared. You don't want scared soldiers in your battle. But they were camping near a place called the Well of Harod. There must have been a pool of water there. And God said to Gideon, take the men down to the water and watch the way they drink. there they were. There was the water. It wasn't in bottles, it wasn't in cups, it was a pool of water on the ground. And some of the soldiers did this. They got down on their hands and knees, right down on the ground, and they put their faces down to the water, and they sucked up some water that way. Some of the soldiers went and they scooped up water in their hands, and they drank like that from their hands. Okay? And God said to Gideon, the people who scooped the water up in their hands and lapped it up with their tongues like a dog does, those are the people who are going to go with you. There were how many people? 10,000. Only 300 of them scooped the water up with their hands and licked it up with their tongues. God said, with the 300 who lapped the water like that from their hands, I will save Israel from their enemies. Only 300 men. 300 men is not very many for an army at all. And do you remember, we said at the beginning of the story of Gideon, the enemies were so many, they just filled up the land when they came in. And their camels, there were so many camels with them that they couldn't be counted. It was like looking down, if you look down into the valley where they were camped, it's like looking down at, I don't know, a beach full of pebbles or sand. You couldn't begin to count the camels and the tents and the soldiers. So here was Gideon with only 300 men. God said, with the 300 who lapped up the water from their hands, I will save Israel from their enemies. God was going to do it, wasn't he? And we know that God keeps all his promises. Gideon was beginning to realise that God does keep his promises and he can trust him, because we know that when God told him to make his army smaller, he did what God said. He didn't argue. He didn't ask for God to show him something special. He just went and did it. I think that Gideon had learnt a good thing, hadn't he? He'd learnt to trust God. We can trust him. That means we can say, well, if God says it, it's best. I'll go and do it. And that's what Gideon did. So here's our memory verse today. It comes from the Psalms, from Psalm number 18. It is God who arms me with strength and makes my way perfect. It is God who arms me with strength and makes my way perfect. You see, Gideon had learned, hadn't he, that God really was in charge, that it was best to do things God's way, because God keeps his promises and because God can give you the strength to do the job that he's given you to do. It is God who arms me with strength. That means he gives me strength. He makes me strong. So let's do that first bit. It is God who arms me with strength. It is God who arms me with strength. What else does he do? And makes my way perfect. That means God prepares for us the things that we have to do, and he's with us, and he makes things work out in the way that he's chosen. Okay, it's perfect because it's complete. There's nothing missing in God's plan. God's plans work out, and he keeps all the promises that he's made about what he'll do. So let's read from the top. It is God who arms me with strength and makes my way perfect. And where does it come from? Let's turn it around. Psalm 18, verse 32. Let's try saying it without the words. It is God who arms me with strength and makes my way perfect. Psalm 18, verse 32. You can colour in and learn the memory verse on your quiz sheet this week.
Welcome back to Game Time with Robert. Today we're going through the very traditional fruit salad, but we're going to give it a little bit of a twist. Instead of playing fruit salad, we're going to play confectionery. Basically, you get to be like chocolates or sweets or something like that. So the 4 that are an option are digestive biscuits, Mars bars, um, um, what else should we do? Mars bars and humbugs and lemon sherbets. Okay, and so if I you pick which one you're going to be, and if I say that or I say the word confectionery, then you have to get up, spin around on the spot, or sit down, or get up and like run to the end of the garden and back, or wherever it is you want to do. You get to decide on that. So, without further ado, let's begin the story. So anyway, here I was a while ago. This was back before the lockdown happened, and I was going to a shop, and I wanted to I wanted sugar. You know, you get that craving sometimes. So I went in there and I went to the confectionery aisle. So when I say confectionery, you meant to do your thing, yeah? Okay, good. Hope you got that now. And I went to the aisle and I went to see what they had there. And I bought myself a bag of humbugs, and so you know what I want something biscuity, so I got myself some digestives as well. And then I went home and ate most of them. And yeah, that was nice. But anyhow, after this happened, it was a couple of weeks after this happened, I thought, you know what? I've got a party tonight. Got some people coming around. We're going to watch a movie. We could really do some snacks while we watch the film. So I thought, what would be the best thing to eat while you're watching a movie? I thought, I know, fruit salad. I was like, no, not fruit salad, because we're not playing fruit salad, we're playing confectionery. So I thought, yes, confectionery. So I went to the shop again. I went to the said aisle where they sell said products, and I looked to see what they had, and they didn't have anything. It was all completely sold out. And I was like, no, this isn't any good. This way, I'll have to buy fruit instead. And who wants fruit? And people who are healthy, you should eat fruit. But anyway, that's not the point of the story. I went to a different shop, and they were sold out as well. So I got on the bus, back in the day when you could get on buses without, risk of contamination. And I went to the big shopping centre. I went to a big confectionery store where they just sold confectionery. And they had loads of stuff. So I bought myself a bag of humbugs, and a bag of lemon sherbets, and some Mars bars, and some digestive biscuits. And I went home. But then all my friends phoned me, and they were like, sorry mate, can't make it tonight. I'm really busy, I've got something happening, or I have to go and do this, or homework. Why is it all the homework? Homework always spoils the fun. Anyway, they were like, no, sorry, I'm busy. I was like, no, this is awful. I've got a good movie to watch, got good food to eat. So I was like, what do I do to make myself, slightly more happy, because it made me quite sad. I know what, I'll watch the movie by myself and eat some food. The problem is, I'd bought enough food for all of them to eat, and then I ended up eating all of it myself. So there I was, eating some lemon sherbets, and some humbugs, and some lemon sherbets, and some humbugs, and some chocolate digestives, and some plain digestives, and some Mars bars, and some more Mars bars, and some lemon sherbets, and some humbugs, and some digestive biscuits, and some Mars bars, and then I was watching this movie. Anyway, and I stopped when the movie ended, because that's generally what you do, and I went to bed. I didn't feel that great, because I'd eaten too much sugar, but anyway, I was alright, and I woke up the next morning, and all my friends were like, hey, can I come round? Because, we didn't come round last night, and I was like, yeah, sure, come round. And they all came round, and they brought with them loads of confectionery. So we had more humbugs, and more lemon sherbets, and more digestive biscuits, and more Mars bars, and other stuff. But there's no need for me to say what they were, because that wouldn't bear any relevance to you, because you aren't any of them. And we basically just watched a load of movies, and ate lots of confectionery, and yeah, it was a good time. But then, the other day, because we were in lockdown, I was like, I've really missed these times we used to, hang out together and do things. So I called some of my friends, and I was like, you know what, how are you all doing? And they were like, yeah, we're doing good, thanks, a little bit bored. I was like, you know what, why don't we virtually watch movies together? So we all sat in our separate homes, We watched a film, and we all ate food that we had at our own homes. So I had some digestive biscuits and some humbugs, and one of them had lemon sherbets, some of them had Mars bars, and we all had a good time. And that's the end of the story. Okay, sorry, that wasn't a particularly good story, but I was making up on the spare at the moment, and that's the best I can do. But that's it for me this week, and you can carry on playing this at home with your brothers and sisters and your mothers and fathers, and maybe you could make up a better story than I can. But we hope you have fun with this game and have a good week, and we'll see you next week. Oh yes, before I go, photos of craft. We said you can send in photos of your craft to this email address, and we'll put them at the end of the video. I believe quite a few people sent in photos this week, last week, whatever it is. Got a few photos anyway, so they will come now. Oh, and I forgot to mention the Kids Club quiz sheet. The link is below. You can click there and get the quiz sheet, which you can print off or just do online, I guess, maybe. And I hope you have fun with that. The memory verse is also there. So, yeah, do that throughout the week, and we'll see you next week.